Yo, what up, Mrs. U Nation, aka Savage Armor Jones Giraffe, coming at you with a prediction. Because guess what? Next Tuesday, we about to get that restriction list going on. I already know like what a lot of people actually want to get hit, but I'm here to just give out my honest opinion. If you hate me for it, I do not care. Anyway, so let's get this started because I do believe they're going to hit both formats, but let's just get this out the way. Um, Gold Paladins. We already know everybody wants Percival and Gugrit to get hit, but that's not what I'm actually going to put up there because I feel like that Gugrit and Percival isn't the problem. So my prediction for Gold Paladins is supposed to be Percival and XL2 cannot be used in the same. Well, not okay. Let me rephrase that. If you play Percival, you cannot go into XL2. And the reason why I feel like that this is an issue is because Percival and Gugrid isn't necessarily the problem. Like, let's be real, there's a lot of decks at the moment. And I think maybe over half of the clans in the game at this particular moment can make more than one marker at a turn, per turn. I mean, for a prime example, both of the other Paladin clans, Rogue Paladin and Shadow Paladins, they can make multiple markers. Genesis can make a shit ton of markers. They can just shit that out for no apparent reason. Um, you got, for a prime example, Murakumo and Nubatama, both of the ninja clans, they can make multiple markers too. You got Spike Brothers that can make Force 1 and Force 2. You also have the ability of you also have Harry that can make multiple markers. You have Great Nature with Hamsuke that can make multiple markers. You have, even though the second markers come at the end phase, you have both Aquaforce and Gear Chronicle that can make multiple markers. Hell, even not Dimension Police. Well, actually, yeah, Dimension Police can make multiple markers. DI can make multiple markers. I mean, basically, more than half of the clans in this particular game can make multiple markers. And you're basically want to hit Gugrit and Percival because they make multiple markers. Okay, but at the same time, I can kind of understand because making markers and making a board presence while making said markers is two completely different things. So I can completely understand that. So for a prime example, like I said, Aquaforce and Gear Chronicle, they make their second marker at the end phase. So that second marker technically doesn't really make too much of a difference. And then you also have something like Yasui, for a prime example, that can make a marker during their battle phase, but unless they got that grade 1 chick that I cannot think of the name of at the moment, she's the one that allows you to copy a card and clone it if a Yasui comes onto the battlefield. No, if it comes onto the Vanguard circle. Um, but then at the same particular time, you have like Gold Paladins that can not only make markers, but they can do it during their main phase, so they can set up that quote unquote board presence. Not to mention, they have a lot of units that can call other units and draw cards, just get their hand back. So in general, I guess I can kind of sort of understand why people want Percival and Gugrit to have to do that, because you also get the hand advantage as well as the board presence. Where at the same particular time, Gugrit has one of the best defensive plays in the game. And in my personal opinion, this is just my personal opinion, you don't have to necessarily go on it, defense wins games. Like, let's be real, Gugrit is like a walking, living, prodigy of that when it comes to, Cardfight Vanguard. So I can honestly say, defense wins games. You also got to remember that one of the reasons why Shiryuki got hit was mainly because of his defensive play, not her offensive play. Same thing with Diane or Doreen. I think that's what her name was, from Silverthorn. Same thing with that. It was the defensive play because she gained hand advantage. aka technically is defense. So like I said before, defense wins games. Like that's just on God right there. On God, defense wins games. But honestly, the real problem is XL2. And the reason why I say that is because it was the same problem with Ezel. The problem with Ezel was that, and I can prove this because remember when the first Ezel came out, like before Raven, no, actually even after Raven Hair came out, because we didn't get XL2 until like the mid of that year, and Raven Hair came out the beginning of last year. Yeah, so um, remember, the problem with everything was that when you're using XL1, you didn't get your hand back because Ezra was all about making board presence, but also at the same time wasting all your hands so you can end your opponent right then and there. And if you so happen to fail on that, then basically Ezra was just going to get bottomly wrecked at the end of the day. So the problem is XL2 because once XL2 came in, then you got that hand advantage back. So then, the minusing factor didn't really matter that much at the end of the day. So, um, when it comes to the Percival thing, I honestly feel like that XL2 is like the main issue, not him being in the same deck as Gugrit. Now, you also got to remember that Percival can only get the extra marker if both players are at grade 3. So when you put all of that into consideration, you definitely have to say that it's the XL2, not the Percival thing in general. Because here's the thing, remember, Percival is not the only unit that has to wait till both players are going to grade 3 that was dominating the format. Remember, the very first half of the year, Dragonic Vanquisher was the dominating, unit in the dominating deck of like the whole standard format. And this is coming around the time this is coming around the time when you had I know it doesn't really count in the English format, but it did count in the in Japan format, in JP format, where it was dominating. What's her face? He was dominating Riviere when Riviere was at full power, where even Hyuga, the deck prior to Riviere, was the dominating deck. So it's not like the effect isn't a problem because Dragonic Vanquisher was surviving in a format where Riviere was a thing, where Hyuga was kind of sort of a thing, and even when Revron was a thing, and Revron was minusing 5k to your grade 2 Vanguard while getting a triple draw check and doing more than 4 attacks a turn. So honestly, it's Percival and it's the XL2. Honestly, if you play Percival, you can't play XL2. Just as simple as that. It doesn't have to be mismatched with Gugrit because at the end of the day, despite that the deck is the king of the hill at this particular moment, there's still other decks that are allowed to play. Because I know a lot of people are going to compare this to Luard in the main, and you also got to remember when Luard was the king of the hill, there was literally no other deck that was actually playable besides Luard. Like basically that whole format was Luard or die. That's how it is. With this particular one, it's not Gugrit or die. You can still play Fenrir. You can still play Garaviel. You can still play Big Belly. You can still play Luar. You can still play a lot of other stuff. It's just the fact that it's still it's like the most dominating deck. Just think of it like as Imperial Daughter format. Just think of it that way. You still had like a lot of decks that can combat it, and overall, Imperial Daughter was like the dominating deck because it was the most consistent thing. But at the same time, you still had other decks that you can choose from at the end of the day. So yeah, that's my thing with Gold Paladins, Percival with XL2. Next up, you have Shiryuki. I'm going to say either two things. Either Shiryuki's going to go to 4, and she's going to get a hard errata, or she's going to go to 2. And the reason why I say this is because obviously Shiryuki's getting support and the clan selection booster for Murakumo. At the same particular time, it wouldn't make sense to just keep the original Shiryuki at 1. So obviously you got to bump her up to some number. So either you're going to bump her up to 2, so you keep the playstyle kind of even, or you put her at 4, but you make some type of hard errata. For a prime example, maybe make her a once per turn ability. Making her a once per turn ability will be actually pretty good because it won't nerf her too much, but it will nerf her enough so that she can be kept in check. At that same particular time, you know, there is also the possibility where you don't make her a once per turn, a hard once per turn, but you make it to where she only minuses 5k regardless of where you put her at. So if you put her on the Vanguard circle, she minuses 5k instead of 10k. You put her on the Guardian circle, same thing. Just like how she is if you put her on the Rear Guard circle. But that's just me. In my personal opinion, that's definitely how it should go. So overall, Shiryuki either at 2 or Shiryuki at 4 with a hard once per turn. Then I have a wild card for standard format, Tachikaze. You already know Anger Blader at 4, but with a hard errata. I know this is not necessarily going to happen, though, but as a person who low-key plays Tachikaze, give us our Anger Blader back. I know we can not deal with Anger Blader though, but it was kind of sort of a slightly unfair hit. I'm not going to. That's not me being biased. That's not me being biased at all. I'm not saying it was a completely unfair hit though, but at the same time, I didn't think it should have got hit to 1. It should have got errata. Like the errata should have made the first ability, the one that gives you the equip gauge, a hard once per turn. If you would have just made that a hard once per turn, you could have basically saved most of the problems that Anchor Blade was giving at that particular time in the format. And then eventually it would have just gotten, crept, it would have got power crept out. Do not get me wrong. It would have still got power crept out. It still would have it wouldn't end up as like it wouldn't stay as a tier 1 deck, but it would just go right back to where Tachikaze normally was and just be in that particular deck that was, it just be in that sleeper deck that it always has been. That it is at this particular moment. It's a sleeper deck. Like, no ands or buts about it. So, I can definitely see Anger Blader coming back at 4, but with a hard errata. Errata is the first ability to a hard once per turn. With that being said, that is the end of the standard format portion. Now I'm going to go into premium format where I know like a lot of people don't care about who gives a shit anyway. Alright, so we're going to get Zazan to 0. Let's be real, there has been a lot of talk, like over 2-3 months of talking about how bad Zazan is for the format and basically why he needs to get banned and hit with the ban hammer and everything else like that. There was a whole hateful movement towards this particular card, so I can completely understand that. Now, the only reason why he's at 1 is because when it came out with the restriction list at that particular time, Premium format, Premium Collection 2020 wasn't released in English yet. But now, seeing that it got released in English in July, if I remember correctly, yeah, it got released in English in July, and it's already been almost 5 months since then. So I guess it's time for that nigga to go bye-bye. Because obviously nobody wants him in the format. Premium players don't want him in the format. He does nothing but degenerate plays, and even at 1, he is still proven that he is still busted. So outside of that, we should definitely ban him. Next up, another card that needs to get banned is Good Steel. I know a lot of Dark Irregular players are going to hate me for this one, but I do not care. That nigga needs to go. I'm sorry. Every time Dark Irregulars get support, obviously it gets stronger. Everything that made Dark Irregulars as good as it is mainly because of that particular unit. And you can choice restrict some cards, do not get me wrong, but it wouldn't matter because you'll get support and you'll have to create a whole new problem. So therefore, just eliminate them. Just eliminate them. Nobody wants them there. Well, outside of Dark Irregular players, nobody really wants him there. I mean, let's be real on that. He's been dominating long enough. Time for him to go bye-bye. Not to mention, I still think it was kind of BS that even though he was just as cancerous as Katrina, you hit Katrina instead and not Gastille, which I still to this day don't understand how come Gastille didn't get hit with the band hammer, but Katrina did. Now, do not get me wrong. I already know why Katrina was busted. Katrina definitely deserved to get hit with the band hammer. But I'm just saying, if you're going to ban Katrina for being cancerous to the format, you should have banned Gastille for being cancerous to the format. That's just me. I know I'm not the only one who's thinking that, and I'm not. I know I'm not the only one thinking that. So honestly, just ban them. Nobody really wants them. That stride in 2020 is just as good. They can survive. As far as Neo Nectars, I have hardly seen Neo Nectars be relevant in premium format. So that definitely proves that that card was definitely carrying that clan. But anyway, last but not least, I do have my wild card for premium too, and unironically is Katrina. Just like Anger Blader, they could have just errated her. The problem with Katrina, there was too much free stuff getting there. It was free real estate. Think about it. You stride into her, you get free tokens. You attack, you get free units. There was no cost in between. The only cost was you can only call up to the same number of units as the tokens that you had on the field. It's pretty as simple. It's as simple as that. You should have put some cost on it. Hey, maybe you have to counter blast 2, soul blast 1 in order to get the ability. In order to call units and stuff like that. Or you had to either counter blast or soul blast per unit that you were about to call. And I mean, it sucks that it will have some type of effect like that, but it will be, it would have been balanced. It would have balanced it out. Or you could have just made her a GB3. You could have made her ability to call free tokens a regular ability, but her second ability should have been a GB3. It definitely should have been like that. Or it could have been the other way around. Maybe she doesn't give free tokens until she's GB3. That's fair. That's honestly fair. And I'm not saying that Sardine is a bad card. Sardine's actually pretty good. But I'm just saying, I feel like the only reason why it would be somewhat worth it is because at this particular time, both premium and standard format demands that you do a minimum of 4 attacks. And Neo Nectar can't do a minimum of 4 attacks. Now, of course, I know people going to say, well, what about stand triggers and whatnot? No, that's a waste of space of triggers. There will be no point in doing that. So, yeah, honestly, if it means that there will be multi-attacks, if it means that Neo Nectar would get 4 more attacks, honestly, put Katrina at 1 with that hard errata. But that's just me. I know everybody's not going to agree with that and everything else like that, but hey, that's my prediction. So for now, let's just see what happens on Tuesday. I guess I'll do like my reaction to it and stuff like that. But anyway, overall, my name's Mr. Zoo Nation, aka Salvage Alma Jones Giraffa, signing out. If you like videos like this, like, comment, subscribe, do whatever. You already know. I'm out.